Yes, so
As this is the official Sciblogs podcast, each week we'll be bringing you our favourite selection of the great posts that our wonderful team brings together each week. And this week, Aimee, you can lead them off with some of your favourites.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. I'm going to start with a blog post by Marcus Wilson, who's at the University of Waikato, and Marcus is into things physicky. In fact, his blog is called Physics Stop. And he just posted up the link to an article he came across on the BBC website, last weekend, I guess, about computer modelling of aircraft boarding. So, and the article then goes on to explain, exactly how it works and how people file in. And as we've all seen, those needing special assistance go first. So, for example, like old people or people who, potentially in wheelchairs, anything like that. Then it's families with younger children, and then sort of row by row in blocks, they fill in the plane. Business class and first class sometimes, get to board kind of whenever they like. And apparently computer modeling is suggesting that this is absolutely not the best way to do it. And scientist Jason Steffen, who's an astrophysicist and computer modeler, has used computer simulations of different boarding patterns, for example, window seats first, then middle seats, then aisle seats, to see what might work better. And one interesting result is that a completely random way of boarding, which seems to happen with a whole bunch of airlines anyway, because it's not like passengers wait for the instructions they've been given, is actually better than the back-to-front being method used at the moment. So, again, have a look on the blog post that accompanies this. Go and read the full article. It's certainly fascinating.
All right, I have to talk about this one a little bit because Carl Sagan has cropped up twice on Sciblogs this week, and Carl Sagan is my absolute all-time hero.
He's my god as well.
If you have not seen Carl Sagan stuff, you have not lived. There's a wonderful series online at the moment called the Sagan series, which is summing up some of his best work from Cosmos and the Blue Dot. Carl Sagan was an absolute inspiration, and what Michael Edmonds, one of our bloggers, has done is he's put together a couple of his favourite clips from Carl Sagan, and he's discussing what made Carl Sagan so Carl Sagan-esque.
What a brilliant science communicator he was. He's still widely regarded as probably the science communicator of all time. And it was things like, him having such a visible passion for science, his optimism, his incredible knowledge. He certainly helped to write much of Cosmos. And he was incredibly articulate. He spoke beautifully. You could see the love and the knowledge coming through, and he was very good at telling stories.
Absolutely. But he was very, very in touch with his humanity as well, which
Enormously.
I think is a rare quality in any person, not just a scientist. And he did simple things, like it was he that wrote the golden discs that have been set out with the 2 Voyager satellites and the 2 Pioneers.
Yeah.
So these have descriptions of men and women, and it has recordings of classical music, and it has whale song, and all these just gorgeous, hugely imaginative, descriptive things. And he was in charge of that. But my favourite thing that he did is one of the satellites, its name escapes me now, when it was travelling out past Saturn. It was, at its time, one of the furthest away satellites. He got it to turn back. He turned all the cameras around and got them to take a photograph of the Earth. And this is the photograph entitled The Pale Blue Dot. And there's just a couple of pixels wide white smudge, which is the Earth taken from a satellite at Saturn, which is about 1,500 million kilometres away from the Earth.
Wow.
And it's just the Earth is illuminated in this gorgeous sunbeam reflecting off the satellite itself, and it's one of the most poignant images I've ever seen.
He's since, that image has since become one of the most famous images in science. Certainly in Cosmos, you can also see he was a very strong believer in extraterrestrial life and the existence of extraterrestrial life. He wrote Contact, for those of you who didn't know that, and it's worthwhile reading the book. It's certainly better than the movie, although the movie's really not bad. And it comes across so clearly is this idea that there is other life out there, and the idea that we should be looking after our planet not only as stewards of it, because at some point we're going to meet these other beings, and it would be nice to have something to show them. We'll see about how we actually end up doing on that. But he's widely missed, and really, really do go and watch his series. They are still, I think, as relevant today as they were 30 years ago when they were made.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Marvellous. All right. And the last Sciblogs post we'll talk about, and this is a quick piece by Ken Parrott, who pens Open Parachute, is it's titled Evolution in Education, Advice for Teachers. And so he's posted up a couple of videos prepared by the US National Center for Science Education, which are of a talk given by NCSE Programs and Policy Director Steve Newton to an audience of high school teachers from across the US, looking at the challenges biology teachers face from creationists. How do you respond to students who have questions around this? What he calls different flavors of creationist belief, and other issues around teaching evolution and some of the pitfalls and practicalities of it, particularly in cultures where creationism is very strong.
Sorry, your use of flavors to discuss different types of creationism made me laugh. It made me think of them like subatomic quarks. It's like they're strange and there's something we don't understand.
Upside down.
Sorry, physics joke.
Indeed.
Okay, and the last thing we're going to do each week in the official Sciblogs podcast, which we'll probably shorten to TOSP before we lose our breath, is take you through some of the more interesting science events in the upcoming week.
Yeah.
So this week there are a few things on. My first pick is actually a Paul Callaghan lecture. Now, unfortunately, this isn't open to everyone. This is open primarily to Victoria University alumni. But it's a Paul Callaghan talk, so what is said will get out to the scientific community very quickly.
Yes.
And he's going to be giving a talk on the tiger economy on Wednesday evening, so keep an eye out on Sciblogs and on various media outlets on Thursday and Friday for a summary of what that is. It should be really interesting. Paul's a great communicator as well.
He is. He's absolutely fantastic and speaks out loudly and often about the need for New Zealand to change some of its mindsets if we're going to change our sort of, what would one say, our ranking on the international innovation ranks.
Currently
there.
pretty abysmal.
Currently we're not doing as well as we could, and he's got some very interesting thoughts on why that is and how that could be fixed, and it's not necessarily by throwing more money at it. Other events that are on are the Stroke and Applied Neurosciences conference, I believe, which is next weekend, and then there's also a talk called Dirty Dunedin, Sanitation and Public Health in 19th Century Dunedin, which actually I imagine would be pretty fascinating. That's going to be happening at the University of Otago, I believe. So have a look out for that if you're down there at the time. That stuff with a little bit of history is always absolutely fascinating. And that kind of wraps it up this week. If you have any comments, any suggestions, anything you'd like us to cover, please do give us a shout. And particularly if you have heard about an issue and would like us to research it and maybe answer it for you, do give us a shout. There you can contact us through the TOSP blog.
That's it from us. Have a good week, everyone.
And before we do that, a quick shout out. Thank you to the Science Media Centre for the use of their audio equipment, to Vic for the use of rooms, and to Rian Sheehan for the beautiful music that he's let us use for the intro and outro for this. And that's it.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.